Assalamu alaikum. This is Ghulam Abbas from MH Language Solutions. Today we are gonna discuss some do's and don'ts of IELTS Speaking Part 1. First of all, let's have a look at the format of this part. As you can observe in the picture in front of you, that duration of this part is 4 to 5 minutes. There are 8 to 10 different questions in this part. First of all, you are asked introduction questions. These questions include your name and your ID. Later, you need to answer questions on familiar topics. Familiar topics means the kind of topics that you already know. These topics can be your job, your study, your family, your hometown, or your hobbies. Since we have talked about the format of the test, it is time now to talk about do's and don'ts of this part. Let's begin with the do's. Firstly, you should be confident in this part. Examiner is not there to scare you, but he is there to lead you toward your dream destination. He is a helper who can help you to achieve your goal. So, be confident. Secondly, this part asks you familiar questions. Familiar questions means those questions are about your life. So, nobody can answer those questions better than you. Therefore, you should not be worried. Thirdly, don't try to produce memorized responses in this part. Instead, try to be original. Give the answer that comes into your mind after listening to the question instead of giving ready-made answers. These sort of answers, they are not encouraged in IELTS. Fourthly, you can always give a negative answer. For example, if your examiner asks you, do you like dancing? It is not necessary to agree with the examiner. You can always say that you do not like it because it is not your kind of thing. That is very normal to do. Lastly, there are no yes and no questions in this part. Sometimes examiners ask, do you work or are you a student? And students take it as a yes and no answer. This is not yes or no answer. Every time when you have this sort of question, always add why with this question on your own. In this way, you can easily answer this sort of question. Now, it's time to talk about don'ts of this part. It means things that you should not do in this part. Firstly, neither give a very long answer nor a shorter one. In my point of view, 2 to 3 sentences as an answer for this part are sufficient. Secondly, don't go away from the topic. You need to stick with the topic because the questions are about familiar topics and you do not have enough room to move about the topic. You need to be specific in this part of the test. Thirdly, don't speak quietly. Sometimes I have observed that students, they speak so quietly that examiner is not able to hear them properly. If examiner cannot hear you, how will he or she be able to give you bands? Fourthly, don't try to use all the vocabulary and all the phrases that you have learned. Students often learn useful vocabulary and phrases for speaking, but it is not a good strategy to use all of them in the first part. Use them appropriately. Lastly, do not get confused if you do not know the answer of a question. You can always say that you have not experienced this sort of thing earlier. In this way, you can answer a question that you are not aware of. But don't do it very often. Dear students, this is all for today. I think this lecture helped you to understand IELTS Speaking Part 1 more appropriately. Thank you very much for watching this video. Stay tuned.